Welcome back to today's episode as we dive further into perfecting your prospecting. Today we're going to talk about the reality check. This is probably the most challenging part of the process I teach, especially if you're a little more reserved or you're afraid to be bold, and it can create some of the most powerful results. So up to this point, we've talked about the kick, the importance of having a great opener, being detached from the results, planting seeds, going through proper discovery, helping them discover their problems, building the dream, painting a bright vision of the bright picture of the future. And then now this is where we want to do a reality check. We want people to understand the consequences of staying the same, understand the consequences of what they're facing currently, and help them really get a grip on reality, right? So some ways that I'm going to do that, I'm going to use what if questions. I love what if questions. A lot of times people ask what if out of fear, right? And so I want to turn the what ifs around on the prospect. We also want to make sure that here, this is about understanding. This is about empathy. It's not about creating pressure. And then we want to really help them see the cost of their inaction. So for example, what happens if you guys continue doing things the way you are right now? So let's go back to, you've heard me use this analogy a little bit in the prospecting, but if you're doing door to door and talking about solar, electric rates are going up like crazy in most parts of the country, right? Hey, what are you going to do if the electric prices keep going up year after year? You said you're paying $600 this year. It was $400 a couple of years ago. What are you going to do if it's $800 a month next summer? Shut up, let them talk, right? I'm trying to think of a good example. Insurance, another industry I've had experience in. Hey, what if you go with the 1-800 number and save $10 a month and you can't ever get a hold of anybody? Is that going to be worth the savings, right? What if you go with the alternative company and you run into a challenge or problem? Is that worth it to you? What if you stay the same? What happens if you don't do this, right? What's the cost? What's it costing you to not be hitting your goals? So sometimes you might have a product or service where you know the problem and you know what that looks like for them. Sometimes sometimes you might be selling something where they've got to tell you what the problem is. Maybe the problem is they have this goal and there's something keeping them from hitting the goal. Okay, so what happens if you don't solve the goal? You said your goal is to get have your business go from $500,000 a year in revenue to $1 million. Yeah, what happens if you don't do this? What if you stay at $500,000 a year? Yeah, what's it costing you not to fix the problem? Oh, it's costing you $500,000 a year because you want to be at $1 million, right? Add that up over a few years. Oh, it's actually costing you over a 5-year period, it's costing you $2.5 million, right? So what if you don't do anything about this, right? And the point here is, look, I'm not looking to create unnecessary pressure. Look, there's a reason, there's a necessity for urgency in prospecting. We want to shorten timelines and get people to make decisions. That's why you're paid so much in sales. You're not paid a lot in sales because you're good at presenting numbers or presenting a proposal. You're paid because you're helping people make decisions. And people love a good salesperson that can understand where they're at and help them see things in a way where they don't feel pressure. So you're asking these questions and you're letting them answer the cost, right? It's not about pushing a deadline or twisting an arm. It's about helping them come to some realizations and do a reality check of themselves if they stay where they're at. And I think the biggest thing we're trying to point out here is, what's the cost of inaction? Now, sometimes this could be a financial cost. Sometimes it could be something else. Maybe the cost of inaction, if you're selling pest control door to door, maybe the cost of inaction is just worried about your kids going out and playing outside, or worried about, spiders or scorpions or wasps, right, stinging your kids or biting your kids, right? That the cost may sometimes be a mental thing. It could also be, the cost could be financial, right? Hey, you're spending $3,000 a year on your electric bill. What happens if the rates continue to go up and you stay where you're at? What's that going to cost you over the next 10 years, right? So help people qualify or quantify, excuse me, help people quantify the cost of their inaction. And so that could be emotional, that could be spiritual, that could be socially, that could be financially. There could be several costs of inaction. And the thing I think that's most important to remember about this reality check is people are often more motivated to avoid loss than they are motivated to get gain. So it's interesting. Let me give you an example of this. I had a boss once who spent probably, I don't know, I bet he spent 30, 40 hours fighting with, I think that was one of the old phone companies, Quest or AT&T or what, not AT&T. Anyways, calling the CenturyLink maybe, trying to fight a $20 charge that he shouldn't have been charged because he wanted that charge removed. And he felt like, you know, the principle was he rightfully shouldn't have had to pay it. And so he went to try, because he didn't want to lose the $20. Like, he was so worried about being right that he probably spent 40 hours, and I bet 40 hours of his time, like reality, 40 hours of his time doing what he was best at was probably tens of thousands of dollars, right? And so it's so interesting to see how we will do everything we can to avoid loss and not to get gain. So sometimes we're so focused on selling our product or service that we talk about everything they're going to get. They're just thinking about, man, what's this going to cost me? What's going to cost me financially to sign up for this? This is going to cost me $500 a month, $200 a month. You know, this is going to cost me 15 grand. Like, they're thinking about the loss of their money. You've got to get them to think about the loss that they have from inaction. If you can get them focused on that, when you present your price, it's an investment, not a cost, right? We want them to look at what they're not doing and recognize, shoot, if I don't change things, this is a problem. This is gonna be bad news if we stay where we're at. And that's really about what the reality check's all about. And why I said this is sometimes hard and challenging for people to get into is you have to really believe in yourself and your product and your service to do this. You have to believe that you're going to help them, and it would be immoral for you not to help them see these things. And it allows you to be bold. It allows you to challenge people. It allows you to point out things they may not realize. And some easy ways to do that could be, you know, maybe someone says something to you that's just outrageous and not true as a consumer or as a prospect. Hey, have you considered this? Hey, could I challenge you a little bit on that? You know, could it be possible that? And then, hey, what if you don't do this? You know, what if you stay the same? And I just love asking people that because it gets people to move forward. And so as you're prospecting, if you can help them see that they at least need to look at your product or service, at least need to let you give them a quote, they need to see there's a cost of inaction, it can help you get things moving so much faster than focusing on just the benefits they'll receive from your product or service. I'm Drew Norton, the Everyday Sales Leader. This is your daily dose of sales and